How do we get back to energy independence in America? Not OPEC dependence, energy independence. Something tells me OPEC Plus not really interested in extremist climate policies. But joining me now, Mike Sommers, President and CEO of the American Petroleum Institute. Mike, welcome back to the show. What do you think these guys are doing? There's no market forces to do what they're doing. I mean, prices were stabilizing around. I mean, I know they dipped down to the mid-60s on the banking crisis, but that passed, at least for the moment. Prices around $75. What do they think they're doing? I mean, from a market standpoint, let's start there. We'll get to the policy in a minute, but from a market standpoint, how do you read it?
Well, Larry, I do think that this is a consequence of when the United States sacrifices American energy leadership. As you know, we're still producing 500,000 barrels fewer a day since President Biden took over. And we need to get American production back up to the levels of about 13 million barrels a day, which would put our destiny in our hands rather than in the hands of regimes that are hostile to American interests. And that's the real concern that we have, is that we have sacrificed that American energy leadership over the course of the last couple of years.
I mean, look, we've insulted the Saudis. We've just insulted them, repeatedly insulted them. And as far as Russia is concerned, they're the co-conspirators here. I don't want to let them off the hook. But high prices favor the Russians. I mean, the Saudis have a budget, I guess. I don't think they like America anymore. I mean, Trump had a good diplomacy with them, good diplomacy with Israel, good diplomacy in the Middle East. It seems to me Biden has ripped that apart. So, you know, it's like bad domestic politics equals bad international. Now they're coming at us. I mean, this is directed at us.
Well, fortunately, the House of Representatives just last week put forward a bill that would put the United States back in the pole position, back in a position of American energy leadership when the world needs it. We know that this war is not going to end itself. We need to be supporting our ally in Ukraine to push back on the Russian aggression. But the way to do that is for the United States to again be the #1 supplier of both oil and natural gas during this time of international crisis. And that means putting policies in place that actually embrace American energy leadership rather than diminish it. And that's been our concern over the course of the last couple of years, is a diminishment of American energy leadership. Unfortunately, the only reason that we've increased production in the United States is, one, because American producers continue to produce on private lands, not on public lands. And the only reason we're able to even produce on public lands is because of an act of Congress. It was Congress that had to step in and say that we had to have lease sales in the Gulf of Mexico, for example. Unfortunately, we've had 2 successful lease sales in the Gulf of Mexico just in the last few months. But again, that was because of an act of Congress, not because of presidential leadership. So we need to get back to the point where the executive branch is actually participating in American energy dominance, American energy independence, and being a leader again in the energy sphere.
So, Mike Sommers, the H.R. 1 Lower Energy Cost Act, quarterbacked by Steve Scalise, coming out of the House Republicans, that's the right medicine in your judgment?
It is. And I think that there's actually a chance to get this enacted this year. I'll give you an example of why. There were 4 House Democrats that jumped on board and said that this is the right message for America. There are also going to be a couple of opportunities for us to attach legislation like this, whether it's on a debt limit increase or on a potential government shutdown later in the year. But we think it should be standalone. We think the United States Senate should bring it up immediately, have an open debate about the future of American energy independence, and let's see where the Senate is on this big piece of legislation. They've shown leadership in the House of Representatives. It's time for the rest of the government to show leadership as well.
Mike Sommers, I couldn't remember, knowing you all these years, did you by chance grow up in California?
I did not grow up in California, fortunately, because the way that they are going right now is the exact opposite way that the United States should be going.
Yeah, so
they're actually, putting in place.
Let's talk about this Gavin Newsom. It's not personal. I actually personally like Gavin Newsom, known him for a while. But this price gouging bill, I think you're going to have daily reports from gas stations. They've already increased taxes and regulations. I guess California thinks it's going to lead the country. But all it does is create higher gasoline prices, higher oil prices in the state of California. How's that help consumers? How's that help motorists? How's that help anybody? I don't get it. Price gouging? Really? Have they ever proven price gouging?
Governor Newsom should be looking himself in the mirror, because it is the state of California, the government of California, that has led to high gas prices in the state of California. They have almost double the gas tax of any other state in the United States. They've imposed a regime of a different kind of fuel mix that they have in the state that they mandate refiners to refine to. It's policy after policy. And the people that get hurt most here, Larry, are actually the constituents of the governor. It's the poorest people who have to commute to work and pay these higher prices. That didn't happen as a consequence of America's refiners, the best refiners in the world, but because of the state of California and laws that they've passed. So what they should do is they should put together an independent agency to look at and review the laws that they've passed that have increased prices for their constituents.
Has anyone actually, I know the federal level has investigated so-called price gouging. Has anyone ever come up? There are hundreds, maybe thousands of lawsuits. Has anyone ever proven price gouging?
In fact, for over 100 years, the federal government and state governments have looked into this, and they never find any evidence of price gouging. What they find is government policies that are hurting American production and increasing prices on American consumers.
So let me...
It is governments that...
No, I don't want to... You're on a roll. I just want to say, it's... Here, how can we say this for the umpteenth time? These oil prices are market-driven. And then gasoline is just a derivative of those market prices. Gasoline has come down because the market price of oil. The trouble I have with Saudis and Russia and OPEC Plus is they are interfering with markets again. And we, unfortunately, because of our flawed policies in the war against fossil fuels, we're allowing them. We're allowing them to interfere with market prices. That's my biggest beef here.
Larry, you've hit the nail on the head. As you know, this industry is an industry of market takers, not market makers.
Right.
We respond to the price of gasoline. The price of oil is the main driver of gasoline prices, except in the state of California. When you impose a different fuel mix, when you impose significant taxes on California consumers, you're going to get higher prices. That is clear. And it's clear to me that what Governor Newsom wants to do is continue to increase those prices to drive this industry out of the state. Unfortunately, California for a long time has been a main producing state in the United States. They have vast resources, both offshore and onshore. We want to continue developing those. But this is a state that's chosen to move away, and it's only to the detriment of California consumers that they are doing this. And it's time for the people of California to just say stop.
Yes, sir. Mike Sommers, American Petroleum Institute. Couldn't agree more, as usual. Mark.